So the first thing I did on this assignment was insert my prompt into Gemini. So I let it know that I'm an accounting student doing a cost of capital analysis homework assignment. Told it to please act as a finance professional with a good understanding of Python and to apply the KISS principle to the code. I then copy and pasted all of the assignment details, overview, and required analysis to let it know where I wanted to go with this assignment. So for the first question was to just simply calculate Netflix's weighted average cost of capital. So doing this, I use the CAPM model, which is clearly set right here, using the cost of equity, cost of debt, corporate tax rate, market value of equity, market value of debt, and the total firm value. Using this model, I first calculated the cost of equity, which came out to be about 11.65%, and the cost of debt after tax is about 4.58%. So plugging all that into the weighted average cost of capital formula, Netflix's WACC is about 11.21%. And in the addition of $3 billion in cheaper tax deductible debt causes the weighted average cost of capital to decrease from 11.21% to around 11.12%. And I believe this demonstrates the benefit of the tax shield and utilizing a less expensive source of capital. Overall cost of capital, or the weighted average cost of capital, decreases when a company increases its use of debt. And then to scroll down here, right here, as you can see all the code of it trying to figure out its original CAP or WACC, excuse me. Right here, you can see it's all the financial parameters, all the market parameters, all the WACC calculation functions, the weights, its return, and then finally the results. And then right here is basically the same thing. It's recognizing that there's a $3 billion new debt issuance. It's figuring out the new debt, the new equity, and all, and posting its results down here. And so for a project specific weighted average cost of capital, so United States versus international content. So a firm wide weighted average capital cost, like the 11.21, this number is wrong. I calculated it myself and got 11.21% as Netflix's current WACC. So a firm wide WACC, like the 11.21% we calculated, assumes that the project's risk is about the same as the company's average risk, and a firm-wide discount rate of 11.21% should be used as a baseline for the hypothetical $5 billion investment. A project-specific WACC is generally better because it adjusts the discount rate to the unique risk of the project. Um, so for U.S. content, it's a more of a mature market, and it might have a lower risk and thus a lower weighted average cost of capital due to a familiar audience, stable market, and reliable revenue streams. On the contrary, international content or emerging markets, they likely have a higher risk and thus a higher WACC due to currency fluctuations, political instability, and less predictable audience tastes. We can see the political instability all over Europe. I mean, the wars in the Middle East, Ukraine right now. So you can see how the markets over there aren't going to be as stable as a country like the United States. And so using the firm-wide WACC of 11.21% would lead to the under discounting risky international projects and over discounting safer U.S. projects. Therefore, project specific WACC is the theoretically superior method for this investment decision. And then now we're comparing to industry peers, so Disney, and we have Amazon Prime. And in this Google sheet, I kind of compared the they're both companies' weighted average cost of capital and their debt to value ratio. And I think the key difference, and we can see that Netflix's is almost, well, 3.01% higher than Disney's. So, and I think Netflix has a higher weighted average cost of capital due to higher equity risk. They have a beta, and yeah, so they have a beta, which basically just kind of tells you how risky a company is of 1.3 and a lower debt weight. The high equity weighting exposes the firm more to the expensive cost of equity, and you can see how much higher Disney's debt to value percentage is than Netflix's, and I think this is because of a lower weighted average cost of capital, primarily due to a much higher debt weight, 30%, and a lower beta. Debt is cheaper than equity because it's tax deductible, lowering the overall weighted average cost of capital for Disney. Um, and right here is just um, kind of giving those explanations again as well. So my recommendation is the optimal capital structure strategy. So based on the analysis, Netflix's weighted average cost of capital is high relative to its peers, largely due to its equity heavy capital structure and relatively high beta, or how risky Netflix is. So issuing the $3 billion in debt reduces the WACC from about 11.21% to 11.12%, demonstrating the benefit of cheaper debt. So the recommendation that I have is Netflix should increase its debt weighting towards the industry average, or even Disney's level, 30% debt to value, to significantly lower its weighted average capital cost of capital and increase shareholder value. And how would we do this is we would move towards a theoretical optimal capital structure which minimizes WACC and maximizes firm value. So the strategy basically is Netflix should aggressively increase its debt issuance beyond the $3 billion to reduce its reliance on its highly expensive cost of equity, 11.65. And this higher leverage would move its capital structure closer to the peer average, resulting in a more competitive cost of capital.